It took me a while to work out what that was. The key. Because all I could see was a circle, and I'm thinking, what the fuck she got there?
Tis a key from Sovereign Hill.
Oh,
lovely. Hello, welcome to Mainly Murder with Megan the fucking pig.
You didn't tell me it was on, for starters.
Well, you should always be ready.
Careful.
Always be recording. ABR. Oh no, Jay just walked past with the fucking basketball. I think that is the sound.
Who just walked past?
Jay.
Walked past where?
Just walked past the window when you were pissing.
Oh, well, how would I have seen him if I was in the freaking toilet?
Well, that's why I'm informing you now.
So where's he gone?
No, just walk past because I think it's probably the one sound that irritates me the most is a bouncing ball. Oh, I hate it. And then they got a fucking basketball ring for Christmas.
Yes, I saw that laying down.
Yeah, the wind. The wind took that one.
Last night the wind was banging the fuckwits next door who are never there. I think she comes around about once every fortnight and I don't know what she does, but she doesn't live there. And obviously the renters have moved out, but she seemed to have moved in, but she doesn't live there. But anyway, the meter box thing at the side of the house was just smashed. It woke me up. I was laying there, I'm thinking, what is that fucking noise? And I literally went out every window of the house trying to work out what it was. Oh, that's the worst. I realised it was her bloody thing at the front of her house.
It's fucking.
I was going to go get a screwdriver and just unscrew it and leave it on the ground for her. Go fix it yourself, cunt, when you get back.
On fucking Christmas morning at 4:45, Ziggy was running around the backyard barking his head off, and I went out. I flicked the light on, and he come like crawling up to the window, his ears back and the tail, and I just opened it a little bit and went, shut the fuck up. Turned the light off, went back to bed.
Went, okay.
Just getting back to sleep, and then the other little dickhead wakes up at 6 a.m. I was like, you don't even understand what Christmas is yet. No. Why are you up so early?
Because it's cute. No, my favourite is the cat under the bed because I've got the seat under the bed now.
Oh, yep.
And I'll get up in the middle of the night to go to the toilet, and if I turn the lamp back on, this little face comes out from underneath the bed as if
what
to go,
are we doing?
Is it morning yet? And it's like, nope. Turn the light back off and you hear her scamper back underneath. She's cute, one of them. Other two are bitches, but...
Oh, yeah, one just... Me and Anya have just never clicked, have we?
Anya's, she's getting old. She doesn't care anymore.
Oh, wow.
She's like, oh, yeah, right, you can pat me.
She used to be evil. Anywho, well, that's the end of cat talk with Megan Mum. No, today we have the story of Larry Eyler.
Oh, Lazar.
So,
Leisure Suit Larry.
Leisure Suit Larry.
It used to be a computer game.
Nothing at all.
Used to be a computer game. You used to have to go and buy him, do things to get his condom so he could go to the hooker. It was a fucking computer game. Trust me.
Hold on.
Yep, you Google it.
Look, I had innocent computer games like Putt Putt Saves the Zoo.
Leisure Suit Larry.
Oh my God, he is a thing.
Adult themed comic thing, whatever.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Wet dreams dry twice. Yep. That's disgusting.
Yep, but you used to have to...
there used to be a PlayStation game of it. Oh, my God. There's a PlayStation 4 game of it. Wet Dream Saga.
We had about 3 or 4 different ones between the boys at the footy club. Different people would buy one of them and we'd just swap them around between each other. But, yeah, I remember you used to have to go and buy his condoms so he could go to the hookers. Yeah, it was quite a funny little fucking game. But anyway.
Not as good as Putt Putt Saves the Zoo, I bet.
Probably not in the same category as Putt Putt Saves the Zoo.
Or Putt Putt Joins the Circus.
Putt
Putt Joins the Race. I did all of them. And then he had Freddy Fish.
Yeah.
Pajama Sam.
I remember Freddy Fish.
Pajama Man Sam.
I don't remember Pajama Man Sam.
He went through his wardrobe and then you're in this weird...
Okay, no. I know Freddy Fish and...
Freddy Fresh.
Freddy Fresh.
And
Freddy Fresh and Putt Putt.
Anyway.
Putt Putt Saves the Zoo.
So Larry. Not Leisure Suit Larry.
I feel like I've deja vu. That's a computer game, don't you?
And condoms, hookers, yep. Larry William Eyler was born on the 21st of December, 1952 in Crawfordsville, Indiana. Larry was the eldest of 4 children born to George Howard Eyler and Shirley Phyllis.
Phyllis.
Yeah, Shirley Phyllis, very old names. His father George was an alcoholic.
Great-grandmother's name.
Was it?
Nans.
Phyllis, yes. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, that rings a bell. His father George was an alcoholic who is known to have physically and emotionally abused his wife and children.
Yeah.
George and Shirley divorced in mid-1955. His mother would work 2 jobs as a waitress in a factory on weekdays.
Can I just interrupt you for a minute?
Sure.
It's amazing how many got divorced in all these stories. A lot of them are older ones.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are all, they divorced, they left him,
Yeah.
It just seems it's odd. It doesn't, like you sort of think of like Nan's era that they stayed together.
Yeah.
You didn't divorce.
Yeah, it was
Back
like
then. That's why
upon.
it's
Also,
weird
because
how
women
many.
couldn't have a fucking credit card without their husband and
Yeah,
stuff.
well, that's right. Or car
probably-
insurance in their name or any of that.
That's probably why they stayed together. But yeah, probably very unusual in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah,
to
that's
get
what I mean. But when you
divorced.
always say, oh, they got divorced, it's like, that's kind of unusual for that era.
Yes.
Anyway, please continue.
Anyway, so she worked 2 jobs.
Remember, Dane said, that's the best part, all the chitter-chatter
yes.
that goes off to the left.
And
Thanks,
hi, Dane,
Dane.
if you're listening. Thanks for one of our listeners. So his mother worked 2 jobs. She worked as a waitress in a factory on weekdays, and so there were 2 jobs. She was a waitress, she worked in a factory, and occasionally, third job, worked on a bar at weekends. So a lot. Shirley unfortunately struggled to financially support and provide adequate care for her 4 children and regularly placed them in the care of babysitters, foster families, or simply left in the care of their 2 older siblings, which the oldest was 10.
Oh, Jesus.
In 1957, Shirley remarried, but this marriage lasted only a year before the couple divorced. We don't judge short marriages in this space.
Yeah, but
We
like you
listen
said,
and we don't judge.
You know, and then you get to a point after that period and you're like, why the fuck am I still doing this?
Why the fuck did I do this?
Mhm.
Yep. We've all been there.
Mm-hmm.
Shirley married again for a 3rd time in 1960, with this marriage lasting 4 years before the couple divorced. Shirley then married for the 4th
Oh,
time
fuck off.
in
Why the fuck would you do that?
in 1972.
Oh,
Larry went to St. Joseph's School in Lebanon, Indiana. He was regularly targeted by bullies due to his being from a poor family and his parents' divorce, frequently leading to his sister Teresa confronting her brother's tormentors.
Sister Teresa. Sounds like a fucking nun.
Well,
And his sister was a nun. Sister Teresa.
Mother Teresa.
Mother Teresa, Sister Teresa.
He was
Teresa Green.
Shut up. He was described in a few articles essentially as the kid that everyone just picked on. Larry was described by his teachers as a quiet yet likable pupil.
Did you say poor George?
Poor George. He's the one that everyone picks on. He's just an easy target.
I was
Not
going to
dead
say,
George.
this guy's name was Larry, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Fuck George. Then I registered.
Yes. Due to his increasing stubbornness and erratic behaviours, Larry's mother placed him in a home for unruly boys in 1963, which probably was great. He found this experience emotionally devastating, and within weeks, had tearfully persuaded his mother to allow him to return home. Shortly, Put
your teeth in.
Shortly after, there should be a comma there.
Comma. Larry.
Underwent psychological tests which revealed him to be of average intelligence, although suffering from severe insecurity and holding an extreme fear of separation and abandonment. Obviously, if his mum's fucking putting him in
Stuck
foster
him in home,
homes,
yeah.
babysitters, he's had 3 stepdads. He had severe insecurity and extreme fear of separation and abandonment. So the staff recommended Larry be temporarily placed in a Catholic boys' home in Fort Wayne.
Oh.
You're scared of
That always
abandonment?
helps with the priest.
Yeah, let's take you away from your family. He remained at the boys' home for 6 months before returning back home to his mum and siblings. How does that connect? He's got a fear of an abandonment and separation. Let's separate him from his mum.
And yet the other 3 kids stayed with mum.
Yeah. Well, this is about Larry. We don't know what happened to them. I didn't research what happened to them.
Well,
During his early teen years, Larry discovered that he was gay. He was open about his sexuality only to his family, although he struggled with deep-seated feelings of self-hatred regarding his sexual orientation. Throughout high school, he
I suppose
occasionally...
would have been normal in that time.
The time era, yeah. Throughout high school, he occasionally dated girls.
Whereas now, you got to identify as a fucking cat. People just give him milk. It wouldn't be a problem.
We can't. We're going to have to cut that out.
Why can't you leave that in?
Because we're losing a whole demographic if we do that.
Fucking what? Of cats? the fucking people that think they're cats, well, they think they're a fucking cat. They shouldn't be listening anyway. Fuck off. Take your fucking bowl and bloody rattle toys and piss off.
Fucking whiskers.
Cats. Yeah. Wipe your whiskers and off you go.
Throughout high school, he occasionally dated girls, although none of these relationships became physical.
Because he wanted a penis.
Yes. Having been somewhat religious since childhood, Larry confided to some close acquaintances how he struggled to accept his sexuality. Larry ended up failing to graduate from high school, but did later obtain a GED certificate. After leaving college, he obtained a job as a private security guard in the Marion County General Hospital. He lost this position after working there for 6 months and then got a job at a shoe store. Larry had also had a very brief job of 13 days working at the Augustana Group Home in Chicago, feeding and caring for disabled children.
Oh.
Well,
that's a nice job.
Well, yeah, wait until we find out what Larry done.
Take it back.
A friend explained that caring for people was part of his nature, and when Larry was younger, he wanted to be a priest.
Oh.
One of his friends said there was always a gentle side to Larry, a part that wanted to help people and be recognized for that.
Mm-hmm.
Doubt it. During this time, Larry began to engage himself in Indianapolis's gay community, frequenting gay bars and frequently engaging in casual liaisons with men.
Ooh.
Several of these liaisons noted Larry averted his eyes from his partner during intercourse while shouting profanities such as bitch and whore, leading many to believe Larry was fantasizing his partner was female.
Oh.
By the mid-1970s, Larry was well known within the gay community of Indianapolis, particularly among those with a leather fetish.
Oh, Jesus, okay.
Several acquaintances within this community described him as a good-looking, laid-back guy and an avid bodybuilder who was close to his mother and sister.
Close to him, even though she fucked him off about how many times growing up?
Although others who engaged in sexual activities with him described him as an individual with a sadistic streak and violent temper, which would only surface within their sexual encounters, often involving Larry extensively bludgeoning, then inflicting light knife wounds upon unwilling partners, particularly to their torsos.
Oh, that's a bit much.
Yeah.
Especially if you didn't know it was part of the game.
Yeah, well, you consent to what you like, but if they're not consenting to being lightly...
I'm sorry, keep your knife to yourself.
Yeah.
Far out.
After the shoe store, Larry went on to become a house painter. He lived in a condominium in Terre Haute with a 38-year-old library science professor named Robert David Little. Larry first met Robert in 1974 while studying at Indiana State University. Their relationship was platonic, with Larry saying he viewed Robert as something of a father figure. Larry and Robert would go out to clubs together, but Robert was described as a socially awkward, taciturn and unattractive individual.
Oh.
That's mean.
So in other words, he couldn't get a root.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
He struggled to form friendships or obtain sexual partners during these nights out, and Larry would bring home younger men to engage in sex with both of them.
Oh, okay. On you, Larry.
Good on you, Larry. On the 3rd of August 1978, Larry picked up a 19-year-old hitchhiker named Craig Long. Not long after he...
That was hard. Yeah. Craig Long. Not long after.
Not long after he picked up Craig, Larry propositioned him for sex, which resulted in Craig trying to escape the vehicle. In response, Larry pulled out a knife and pressed it against Craig's chest, which Craig stated, "I don't have any money." Larry then drove towards a rural field, stating, "It's not your money I want. I'm not after your money." He then ordered Craig to undress before he handcuffed him, bound his ankles, then ordered him to climb into the back of the pickup. Bound his ankles. He can't
that would have been, that would have been an awkward jump.
Yeah. As
with sound effects from Megan.
As Larry started...
1, 2, 3.
That's how I get up on anything, and I'm not even bound. I'm bound by gravity.
Idiot.
As Larry started to undress, Craig attempted to run from the car, shouting as he ran, "You queer." Larry chased after him and stabbed him once in the chest, penetrating his lung.
Oh.
Craig fell to the ground and pretended to be dead until Larry left. He then stumbled to a nearby house where the occupants...
I'm tipping Larry did something before he left, did he?
No, he just stabbed him.
Oh. Didn't
Yeah.
have his way.
Look, it just gets worse.
I thought for sure he would have had his way with him and then left him to die.
He then went to a nearby house where occupants called the paramedics. Shortly after, Larry drove to the house where Craig was receiving first aid and offered the handcuff key to a sheriff's deputy, claiming he had stabbed the young man accidentally.
When he wouldn't suck his dick, probably. Allegedly wouldn't suck his dick.
Well, yes.
Pretty sure that's the expression.
He was arrested and taken into custody. A search of his vehicle recovered a hunting knife, a metal-tipped whip, a butcher's knife, a further set of handcuffs, tear gas, and a sword.
Oh, big night planned. Sounds like a Friday.
Larry was later charged with aggravated battery, to which he pleaded guilty. A judge set his bond for $10,000, a sum which was raised by friends.
Really?
He was released on bail. Until August 23rd. On this date, Larry's lawyer offered Craig a check from Robert Little for $2,500 in return for his agreeing not to press charges. Fuck. Craig accepted the offer, and Larry changed his plea to not guilty. As such, he was acquitted on November 13th and was charged
shitting me.
$43 in court costs.
Oh, for fuck's sake. That's ridiculous.
Robert Little does a lot for Larry.
Larry Little. What's his name? Some Little.
Larry Eyler and Robert Little. So they lived together. They were friends.
Dickie Little. Yep.
Quote unquote friends. In August 1981, Larry formed a long-term relationship with a 20-year-old married man named John Dobrovolskis. Yep. I haven't tabbed.
Take your word for it.
John lived with his wife Sally and his 2 children and 3 foster children in Chicago, Illinois.
Sorry, how many?
Sally, the wife.
Yeah.
They had 2 children.
They had 2.
And they were fostering 3.
Oh, Jesus, okay.
Yeah. Sally was tolerant that her husband had a long-term lover in Larry, and he would often live with the family on weekdays and even paid a third of the rent.
Oh, God, help me.
Larry and John both enjoyed sadomasochism, and their sexual activity frequently involved Larry binding John to devices before proceeding to beat and lash him as he hurled curses at John before the two engaged in penetrative sex.
Oh, penetrative
is a hard word to say.
It is.
Larry would constantly seek reassurance from John that he was the only man in his life, with Larry frequently starting fights, accusing John of seeing other men. These arguments would occasionally lead to John striking Larry, who apparently never retaliated in these physical altercations.
Yet he stabbed some other bloke because he wouldn't...
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Although Larry's primary job was a house painter in Illinois, on the weekdays he also worked at a liquor store in Greencastle, Indiana on Saturdays. He would regularly travel between the...
Regularly?
Yes, I can't do that.
What the fuck is wrong with you? Regularly?
It's like that in lure. He would often travel between the 2 states, staying with John and his family during the week and then staying with Robert Little on weekends.
Did John's family mind him beaten and... Well, didn't he say the other guy stayed with him and his wife?
I think they both knew about each other.
Yeah.
I'm pretty...
And the wives obviously...
Everyone knew about each other.
You two do whatever you fucking want.
Robert Little wasn't married.
Keep your hands off me.
He was just like a single man.
I know.
And
And
then the one with the wife was just like whatever, he pays a third of the rent.
Yeah.
So on the 12th of October 1982, Larry picked up a 21-year-old named Craig Townsend in Crown Point, Indiana. Craig was drugged, extensively beaten, and later abandoned naked and comatose in a rural field, causing Craig to suffer from exposure. Craig did survive the assault and was transported back to Crown Point for treatment. Craig, for some reason, fled the hospital without describing his attacker to police. 11 days later, on the 23rd of October, Larry abducted and murdered a 19-year-old named Stephen Crockett.
Hang on, was that his first murder?
This one is his first murder.
Yeah.
The first guy, he stabbed. He got away.
In the chest. He gave him
second
2,000.
guy, which ironically both guys that got away were named Craig, beat him up and left him in the field, thought he was going to die.
But
and he didn't.
And this one is his first actual murder.
First actual murder was, known murder, is Stephen Crockett. His body was discovered in a cornfield in Kankakee County approximately 12 hours after his murder. An autopsy revealed Stephen had been beaten, then stabbed to death, suffering 32 knife wounds,
Jesus.
including 4 to his head.
What the fuck did he do to deserve that?
Probably just nothing. Larry Eyler is a serial killer, so there's quite a few. A week later, on the 30th of October, a 26-year-old named Edgar Underkofler disappeared from Rantall, Illinois. His body was not discovered until 4th of March 1983 in a field close to Danville, Illinois. What?
Danville, Illinois.
Like with Stephen's body, Edgar was found wearing white tube socks that did not belong to him. Forgot to put that in the first part. So these two are found wearing socks that don't belong to them.
What? Okay.
Sometimes
I'm going to stab the fuck out of you 30-something times, but I'll put a nice pair of socks on you to keep your toes warm. Okay.
Sometime the following month, Larry murdered a 25-year-old barman named John Johnson.
But there's no explanation as to why.
These are just all his murders that I'm going through.
Okay.
And then more.
Okay.
Sometime the following month, Larry murdered a 25-year-old barman named John Johnson. His body was discovered 1 month later in Lowell, Indiana. On the 20th of November, Larry abducted a 19-year-old hitchhiker named William Lewis at a location close to Venessence, Indiana. He was stabbed to death and buried in a field close to Rensselaer, Indiana.
Can't you do a word search on
Look,
how to
I probably
fucking pronounce these things?
On the 19th of December, a 23-year-old named Stephen Agan was abducted in Terre Haute.
God, I hope no one from this fucking town listens and goes, God, shit, she's butchered every name in our area.
Haute.
Haute.
Terre Haute. Fine, Google Translate.
Well, fuck, it'd be a lot easier to pronounce countries or states or towns.
I think it's like a suburb.
Yeah, obviously it's a
Terre
shire or a fucking
Shire. We're in America.
Whatever. I don't know.
Oh, it means Highland.
What?
French to English, it means Highland.
Okay.
Terre Haute. Terre Haute. Anyway, his body was discovered in woodlands close to Indiana State Road 63 on December 28th. Stephen had left his mother's home in Terre Haute to catch a movie with the boys and never returned.
With who?
The boys.
Oh.
Relatives called to identify the body, insisted that the white tube socks found on his feet in death did not belong to him. So
Another one with the white socks.
These two. Sorry, I got my Stevens confused.
Oh, for God's sake. It's hard to keep up with all these names in the first place without you fucking it up.
An examination of the outbuilding of an abandoned farm close to the crime scene revealed several traces of human flesh upon the walls in the area where plaster had been damaged, leading investigators to speculate Stephen had been suspended against the wall of this property as his murderer had inflicted the injuries to his body. Coroner Dr. John Pleece performed the autopsy on Stephen and noted extensive mutilation upon Stephen's abdomen, chest, and throat. He referenced the tremendous rage the killer had exhibited upon his victim in his autopsy report, adding a likelihood of there being more than one perpetrator in this murder.
Oh.
Immediately after Dr. Pleece concluded the autopsy, the body of...
Hang on, is his name Dr. Pleece?
P-L-E-S-S.
Okay.
Please. Like, please help me. Immediately after Dr. Pleece conducted the autopsy, the body of a 21-year-old named John Rauch had been found close to Interstate 70 in Putnam County that day. Dr. Pleece noted striking similarities in the injuries inflicted upon John and Stephen, again noting multiple stab wounds to the victim's abdomen, upper chest, and throat, suggesting an overt rage exhibited by the perpetrator. On the 30th of December, a 22-year-old Yale University graduate named David Block disappeared from a Illinois suburb of Highland Park, having told his family he was going to visit a friend in the nearby city of Highwood. His body was discovered by a farmer in a field south of Illinois Route 173. on the 7th of May 1987.
How many people did this dickhead kill?
So, in the span of 3 months,
Oh.
at the end...
It's like I pre-read.
It's like...
So, fucking hell, how many of these bodies just disappeared and turned up dead?
So, in the span of 3 months at the end of 1982, we have 8 murder victims.
In 3 months?
In 3 months.
Jesus Christ.
On the 24th of January 1983, Larry abducted and murdered 16-year-old Irvin Gibson in Lake County, Illinois.
16's a bit young.
I think there might be one younger.
Oh.
His body was not discovered till April 15th.
Not that any age is a good age to be
Yeah, no, it's not great.
killed, stabbed, raped, whatever.
But like, that's a kid.
Yeah, that's right.
His body was not discovered until April 15th, discarded atop the body of a dog which had also been stabbed to death. On May 9th, the body of 21-year-old Daniel Scott McNeely was discovered in a field close to Indiana State Road 39 in Hendricks County. The wounds inflicted to Daniel immediately tied his murder to the other victims tentatively linked to the same perpetrator. He had suffered 11 knife wounds to his neck, 5 to his back, and 11 to his abdomen, with one wound causing sections of his small intestine to protrude through his abdomen.
Oh.
Welt marks were also discovered on Daniel's wrists and ankles, and his jeans had been pulled down to his ankles. 9 days later, Larry murdered a 25-year-old man named Richard Bruce in Effingham,
Are we going
Illinois.
to get some context as to why?
Yeah, I'm just going through the murder victims.
I think it would have been better to go through them and explain how he knew them and why he killed them.
I don't, look, this is the way I wrote it.
Okay.
His body was thrown from a bridge into a creek and remained undiscovered until December 15th. Many advocates within Indiana's gay community had speculated the sudden increase in the number of disappearances and murders of young males might be the work of a single perpetrator. The crimes in the community were starting to be compared to John Wayne Gacy, who only a couple years earlier was charged with 33 murders. Although police had routinely raided gay bars and bookstores in addition to continually overtly filming patrons of these premises in an effort to identify the movements of the suspect, that month the gay newspaper The Works, in their own efforts to assist police, created an anonymous telephone hotline and published an article speculating as to both the identity and the motive of the perpetrator, whom they speculated struggled to accept his sexuality. With assistance from members of the gay community and the family of one murder victim, the editor of the newspaper offered a reward of $1,500 for any information obtained leading to the arrest and conviction of the killer. By the early spring of 1983, police in Indiana had tentatively linked several murders of young males committed in the state to the same perpetrator. 6 days after the discovery of Daniel McNeely's body, the Indiana State Police conducted a meeting attended by 35 detectives from each of the 4 jurisdictions where bodies of young males... I really thought I was going to get through that one without any giggling.
Well, fuck. I'm seriously going to send this to that bloody college you went to because I want my money back.
I'm good at baking, though.
Yeah, that's great. Can't fucking speak or read. Jurisdictions.
Jurisdiction. It's a hard word. Where the bodies...
That's not a hard fucking word.
Where the bodies of young males bearing wounds suggesting the same perpetrator had been discovered. Investigators agreed that a task force was needed and it would include 2 detectives from the state police, 2 from the Indianapolis police, and 2 from each county involved in the manhunt.
County. That's what I was trying to think of before when I was saying suburb, town, whatever.
What did you say? No,
county.
you said county.
No, I don't think I did say county.
Shire.
No. Shire.
You said Shire.
That's it.
All information obtained was entered into a computerized database linked to the statewide police system. Shortly thereafter, investigators in Kentucky contacted the task force reporting that a 29-year-old Lexington resident named Jay Reynolds, who was the owner of an ice cream shop, had been discovered stabbed to death in Madison County on March 22nd, and that his body had likely been transported to the site of its discovery. Days later, investigators in Chicago reported that the body of an 18-year-old African-American teenager named Jimmy Roberts had been found with 35 stab wounds to his body in Thorn Creek on May 9th.
It's very angry, isn't it?
It's
not just a stab or getting
Or
for the
just a
heart or go
quick,
for the slice
yeah.
the throat. It's a fucking vicious.
30.
Yeah,
Like that's a lot.
That's extra. Yeah, lay down. I'll get a knife.
1, 2.
Let's see how.
I was just thinking
My
that
arms
would
get
be a
fucking
lot.
tired. I'd get sick of
Yeah.
stabbing you. I'd be like, oh fuck it. She's
Not
gotta
that
be
I was
dead.
just thinking we should practice. Like I was just
I
thinking 1,
was.
2,
Yeah, your arm would be like, oh yeah, I'm done.
10. And that's just,
12 should do it.
but that's in the air. Like imagine going
Actually,
through skin.
Yeah.
Both victims were linked to the manhunt for the same perpetrator, whom this task force termed the highway murderer.
Ah.
On the 6th, some of them get little nicknames that don't really stick, but then you get like the Green River Killer and
Oh yeah, know all about him.
the Night Stalker,
Yep.
Golden
Yep.
State Killer.
Yeah, yep, all them.
On the 6th of June, 1983, a former lover of Larry's named
Larry's lover.
Thomas Henderson phoned the investigation team's confidential hotline to voice his suspicions that Larry Eyler might be the killer that they were seeking.
Oh, why do you think that?
He explained
Okay.
that his former lover
Fucking, this is creepy.
had been charged with some sort of stabbing of a young hitchhiker in 1978 who possessed a violent temper and had a preference for bondage. Conducting a background check on Larry, investigators discovered that he'd been arrested in 1978 for attempting to sexually assault a teenage hitchhiker whom he had stabbed and left for dead. The handcuffing of the use of wrists and binding of the ankles matched the MO of the highway murderer.
But did he leave him in socks?
I don't think we ever explained where the socks...
No.
whose victims had also been discovered with welt marks upon their wrists and ankles. Furthermore, Larry was known to regularly travel between Indianapolis and Chicago. This information was considered sufficient to keep an informal track of Larry's whereabouts, but not to place him under full surveillance. The FBI developed a psychological profile of the unknown killer, whom they predicted to be a white male in his late 20s or early 30s who worked in a menial profession and who presented a rough exterior in part due to his self-hatred regarding his sexual attraction to other men. The individual would project a macho image and seek the company and approval of other masculine males in order to feel a sense of belonging. As such, this individual would frequent redneck bars and be something of a night owl, yet live on the edge of homosexual panic, always fearful of being labelled by others as queer. Due to this fear, he's
fucking Larry fit the bill.
Yeah, well, Larry... Let me show you Larry.
I can Google him. It's probably easier than...
Oh, yeah.
Jesus Christ. What's his name? Larry
Eyler.
Ew.
But, yeah, if you see a photo of him, you're like, yeah, macho man, all that.
Fucker.
Macho man. I want to be a nacho man.
Ew.
Due to this fear, this offender may express a hatred of homosexuals in order to mask his sexual attraction to those from whom he sought acceptance. The FBI predicted that upon completion of a murder, the offender would symbolically erase the act by making a rudimentary effort to cover his victims with leaves or soil, and that this individual likely had a middle-aged, middle-class, or markedly more intelligent accomplice in several of his initial homicides.
Oh, do we think Little was involved?
As many victims had been athletic
I hate when she doesn't fucking answer.
and lithe in stature, his profile also predicted the offender would be a physically strong individual. So, yes, very much sounds like Larry at this point, doesn't it?
Does indeed.
On the 8th of April, the body of 28-year-old Gustavo Herrera was found by construction workers in Lake County, Illinois, near the Wisconsin border. Gustavo was a father of 2, but he also frequented local gay bars. Aside from multiple stab wounds, his killer had cut off his right hand and removed it from the scene.
And
Removed it.
Sorry. Removed it.
On the 2nd of July, the half-undressed body of an unidentified Hispanic man was discovered in a field near the city of Paxton in Ford County. This victim had been dead since June 27th or June 28th and had been repeatedly stabbed in the abdomen. 8 weeks later, on August 31st, a tree trimming crew discovered the body of a further victim.
Oh, how'd you be?
28-year-old Ralph Calise in a field close to a tollway near Illinois Route 60. Ralph, what?
No, I was going to say, how'd you be rocking up for work? I'll just clear up all this
bottom.
shrub. Bang.
Oh, that's like
Arm,
on
leg,
SVU.
body. Bleh.
There was a grandpa and his kid at the park, and the kid threw the frisbee into the woods, and the grandpa went to get it, and there was a dead lady in the woods, and he's like, "Oh, I'll buy you a new one."
Was this when?
SVU.
Oh, I thought it was one of these stories. I was like, I didn't hear that part. Yep.
No, it was on SVU. Ralph had left the apartment he shared with a girlfriend in the Chicago suburb of Oak Park and never returned home. He'd been stabbed 17 times with a butcher or hunting knife, with several wounds inflicted to his abdomen, causing sections of his small intestine to protrude through his body.
That's another one.
That's what I mean. It must be so, anger.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was an angry little man.
On October 4th, 2 mushroom hunters discovered a human torso.
Sorry. Mushroom hunters.
Yeah.
Do they roam in the wild, the mushrooms?
They'd be looking for mushrooms. Mushroom
hunter.
foragers? I don't know.
Fucking mushroom hunters.
Well,
I'm going out hunting. What, you after, dear? Have you got your gun? Nope. Going for the mushrooms. Anyway, please continue.
Well, the mushroom hunters discovered a human torso concealed inside a plastic bag in Kenosha County, Wisconsin. The victim was identified on October 11th as 18-year-old Eric Hansen, a St. Francis teenager who had last been seen alive on September 27th in downtown Milwaukee. What?
The Fonz. He was from Milwaukee, weren't they? Happy Days?
Pretty sure Jeffrey Dahmer was from Milwaukee.
Pretty sure the fucking Arthur Fonzarelli was too.
Oh, okay.
Jesus
Take your word
Christ.
for it. Eric's last known sighting was by a 39-year-old man who said he saw Eric on September 27th standing at a bus stop in downtown Milwaukee. The witness said bars in that area would have closed at about 2 a.m. Eric's head, arms and legs had been severed from his torso with a hacksaw, and the torso itself had been completely drained of blood. His skull and hands were never found. On October 18th and 19th, the partially decomposed bodies of 4 further victims were discovered alongside an oak tree close to an abandoned farmhouse in Lake Village, Indiana. Each victim had been dead for several months, and all 4 had been partially buried with sections of the body of each victim remaining exposed above ground. 3 of the victims, who were Caucasian, were buried at one side of the tree, and the 4th victim, who was an African-American teenager, was buried at the other side of the tree.
Oh, seriously?
So he was a racist serial killer.
Yeah, didn't want to bury them all at the same place.
An article from USA Today from July 2023.
US.
Shut the
All
fuck
I
up.
could think of was American Dad.
Said
USA.
that the African-American teenager who was only known as Adam Doe for nearly 40 years was discovered to be 17-year-old Keith Lavelle Bibbs by the DNA Doe Project. So
Seriously, it took 40 years to identify the kid.
The 3 Caucasian males were also identified from the DNA Doe Project as being 22-year-old Michael Burr, 19-year-old John Bartler, and 19-year-old John Brandon Jr. But yeah, fucking 2023, they figured out his DNA.
That's sad, isn't it? The family's probably wondered all this time.
For 40 years, like...
Yeah, he's run away, he's been kidnapped, he's whatever.
Well, he was 17, so assuming his parents are in their 40s, and another 40 years, they might still be alive to know.
Yeah.
All 4 victims had been stabbed more than 24 times with a blade at least 8 inches in length, and the trousers of each victim were discovered around their ankles. On the 7th of December, a hunter discovered the partially buried skeleton of a further victim in Hendricks County close to US Route 40. The victim was identified as 17-year-old Richard Wayne, who had disappeared on March 20th while traveling from California to his home in Montpelier, Indiana.
How many in total did this guy do?
One more paragraph and I'm about to give you the fucking numbers. Another decomposing victim was discovered beneath the remnants of a burned mobile home a few feet away from where Richard Wayne had been buried. The deceased was determined to be an African American, approximately 5'9" in height, although his remains were never identified.
Oh.
So by the end of 1984, we have an additional 13. 1983 we had 8. So far he has 21 victims.
Jesus Christ. He was an angry little prick, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, he was quite big.
Oh, and it was only because of him. Because he
much
didn't want
he
people
hated
to
himself.
assume he was gay. Yeah. Or, yeah, didn't like being gay himself. That's fucked up.
On September 30th, 1983, so go back a little bit, Larry was arrested in Lau, Indiana for a routine traffic violation. He'd been in the company of a young hitchhiker at the time of his apprehension, and both men were arrested and detained for questioning at the Lau State Police Post.
That was the luckiest thing to ever happen to that fucking hitchhiker.
Well, yeah.
It's probably the only reason he lived.
With Larry intentionally being detained upon charges of soliciting a young male for sexual purposes. Shortly after 1:30 p.m, 2 investigators from the Highway Murderer Task Force conducted a formal interview with Larry. Although willing to discuss any other aspects of his life and their suspicions of his having committed murder, Larry refused to discuss his sexuality. He'd been questioned about the murders of John Rauch and Daniel McNevy, but claimed to have only read press coverage of both murders in the Indianapolis Star and denied having committed the murders. He also consented to the investigators' request to conduct a forensic examination of his vehicle and also agreed to allow investigators to take his mugshot, copies of his fingerprints, and to subject him to a polygraph test at a later date. During the search of Larry's vehicle, they found a knife, 2 sections of nylon rope, handcuffs, a hammer, 2 baseball bats.
Oh my God. Why would the idiot have let him knowing exactly what's in his own fucking car?
It'd look sus if he said no.
No, I know, but it'll fucking look worse when they found it all anyway.
A mallet and surgical tape.
Oh, there you go. Everything for a good night out.
Oh, yeah. An inspection of Larry's footwear revealed the impressions of his boots to be a precise match to a plaster cast taken of imprints discovered alongside the body of Ralph Callis. The pattern of his vehicle tire tracks also deemed similar to tracks found near another crime scene. Blood was also discovered beneath the handle of the knife found inside his vehicle, and he was known to have regularly commuted between these 3 districts in Indiana and Illinois where several victims' bodies had been discovered. Upon completion of the forensic examination of Larry's vehicle, Indiana investigators informed Larry that he was free to leave custody and retain possession of his vehicle.
How? What? I thought they found blood under his knife and...
boot prints that matched the scene and tire tracks, but no, off you go, Larry.
Okay.
Thankfully, someone on the task force must have realised that now Larry knew that they were onto him as a suspect in multiple murders, and they obtained a search warrant authorising their search of the home of Robert Little. This search was conducted at dawn on October 2nd and revealed further circumstantial evidence, such as credit card receipts, including Larry's presence in jurisdictions within both Illinois and Indiana on dates identified victims linked to the highway murderer had been killed. An examination of phone bills retrieved from the property revealed Larry had regularly... Why the fuck did I put that word so many times in this? Had often...
Because obviously you forgot you can't bloody pronounce it. Regularly.
He'd often placed collect calls to Robert's home at odd hours, shortly after identified victims were believed to have been murdered. One of these calls to Robert's home had been placed from a payphone near Cook County Hospital on April 8th, the murder date of victim Gustavo Herrera. Hospitalization records revealed Larry had received treatment for a deep cut to his hand on this date, which he'd claimed had been caused in a fall from his truck in which he had landed upon a beer bottle.
Oh.
Okay, Larry.
Poor Larry.
Poor Larry. Investigators further discovered Larry and Robert had recently spent several weeks on vacation in New York City, returning to Indiana shortly before Ralph Callis's murder. These revelations led a member of the Indiana task force named Kathy Berner to remark to her colleagues that if Larry Eyler were not the murderer they were seeking, he was following the actual killer on a daily basis. As the tire impressions obtained by Indiana authorities were not suitable for comparison with the impressions obtained at the site of Ralph's murder, Illinois investigators received approval from the state attorney to seize possession of Larry's truck. I don't understand why they let him go the first time, but...
No.
The vehicle was impounded by the Lake County Sheriff's headquarters on the evening of October 2nd, and Larry accompanied investigators to submit to further questioning by investigator Dan Cowan. On October 6th...
Wow, okay. October 6th, 8th, 10th.
12.
Pick a date. Pick a number. Any number between 1 and 31. Go.
On October 6th, the boot and tire imprints recovered at the scene of Ralph Callis's murder was sent to the headquarters of the FBI in Washington, D.C. for further analysis, and several days later the FBI reported to the investigators that the boot impressions were a precise match, including 4 distinctive areas of wearing and damage to the soles. I think that's so cool, like forensic science shit.
Yeah.
Furthermore, the tyres on Larry's vehicle were from 2 separate manufacturers, and the physical impressions recovered at the murder scene were determined to be from these 2 separate manufacturers. The tyre impressions were determined to be a perfect match.
Ooh, got him.
Larry was formally charged with Ralph Kalisa's murder on the 29th of October, and his bond was set at $1 million.
I'm guessing old Little didn't have that in his back pocket.
An initial trial date was set for the 19th of December. So during all this, he was being questioned and getting preparing for the trial. Police were still finding bodies of people that he killed.
Oh, Jesus.
Like all the ones that those that
Yeah,
mentioned.
but they don't know that they're all him at this point,
Yeah,
do
well,
they?
they're starting to go, oh, is it? But on November 1st, Lake County investigators obtained a search warrant to conduct a second search of Robert Little's home. The primary purpose of this search warrant was to determine whether the victim's missing T-shirts and wallets had been retained as keepsakes. Although investigators retrieved 221 items of clothing, jewelry, pharmaceuticals, and Polaroid photos, none of the items recovered depicted or belonged to any of the murder victims. However,
so what, they just picked his own clothes?
Well, I don't know.
Who has 200? I don't even have 200.
No, 221 items of clothes, jewelry, pharmaceuticals, blah, blah, blah. They'd picked up 221 things. However, a key recovered in this search was a precise match to a key found beneath the body of Stephen Agin. This key was later determined to fit the door of an office where Larry had worked in 1982. There'd be a fucking coincidence that this guy's body ended up on a random key that you lost. Following a lengthy evidentiary hearing in December 1983, Lake County Circuit Judge William Block ruled that although Larry's initial arrest for the traffic violation had been legally valid, his subsequent detainment, during which evidence was recovered by Indiana police and now presented before him, had been attained without probable cause.
Oh, you are shitting me.
At the subsequent January 1984 hearing to determine whether the physical evidence recovered from Larry's arrest should be suppressed, a police sergeant named John Pavlikovic conceded the primary reason Lau police had prolonged Larry's detainment on September 30th was to await the arrival of Lau of members of the task force assembled to investigate the series of murders, and that Larry had never formally been under arrest in relation to any offences other than soliciting a male for sexual purposes. Further testimony pertaining to the Lake County and Chicago officers' search of John Dabrowski's residence on October 3rd revealed this search had been conducted without a search warrant.
Jesus Christ.
On February 1st, Judge Block ruled that although Larry had signed a Miranda waiver upon being detained, he had been taken into custody for interrogation upon charges unrelated to the crime of murder and was later detained on charges of soliciting. Judge Block ruled the physical evidence recovered by Illinois investigators in their comparison of his boot prints and tire tracks to the plaster cast recovered at Ralph's crime scene had been tainted, as the search had been prompted by Larry's initial illegal detainment by Indiana investigators.
Sorry, but that's just so fucking ridiculous.
Yep.
That they can get all this proof that his tyres matched his fucking 2 different makes and models, but you've got 2 different sets of tyres.
But it's weird because, like, in shows they'll do that and be like, "Oh, we picked him up on a speeding ticket. Let's keep him here while we solve the murder."
It's just ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
Absolutely fucking ridiculous.
Well, apparently this was in violation of his constitutional rights.
Oh, fuck his constitutional rights.
With the exception of the tyre impressions and hair and blood samples obtained from Larry, Judge Block ordered all evidence obtained to be suppressed.
Oh, for Christ's sake.
The judge also reduced Larry's bond from $1 million to $10,000. As a result of this ruling, Larry was freed from custody on the 6th of February 1984, his family and Robert Little having paid the reduced bond fee.
Oh, of course they fucking did. They don't. None of them realise he's a fucking killer.
A murderer of 21 fucking
people so
like,
far.
yeah, young men as well, like all early 20s and teens. Like,
What
not,
about their rights?
Yeah, no, fuck their constitutional rights. 4 weeks after his release from custody, Larry relocated to Chicago, Illinois. He resided in an apartment complex in Rogers Park with Robert Little, purchasing the furniture within the property, paying the weekly rent, and purchasing a new set of tyres for Larry's pickup.
Oh. Anya.
Good on you, Robert.
Yeah.
On the 19th of August 1984, at approximately 10:30 p.m., Larry lured 16-year-old Daniel Bridges to his apartment. Daniel was the youngest of 13 children.
Jesus.
Yeah. And was known to have worked as a sex worker with male customers.
Oh.
He was mainly known to have worked the streets at Clark Street and Montrose Avenue in Chicago. Joyce Bunch, a friend of the Bridges family, testified that Daniel often stayed at her house and would babysit for her. She also knew he worked as a sex worker. Daniel took part in a documentary focusing on child exploitation in America. He had been a close acquaintance of victim Irvin Gibson and is known to have been wary of Larry, describing him as a real freak who was well known to the male sex workers of Uptown.
Mm.
Daniel said during this interview, "I really don't like to have sex with other men. It makes me feel cheap. Some say they have a knife and will stab me. Some say they have a gun. I ran away from home and had sex with men to get room and board."
That's sad at 16.
Yeah. A family of 13.
Yeah.
That's
It's like,
it'd be hard.
Don't we have 13 kids? Where's the last one?
Well, I mean, there'd be so many of them that...
They wouldn't know where they were.
On Sunday morning of August 19th, Daniel was at Joyce Bunch's home. His clothes were dirty and Joyce had offered him a clean pair of jeans and 4 T-shirts. One shirt was a Duke University T-shirt with cut-off sleeves. As he left Joyce's home, he asked if he could return to spend the night there. During this weekend, Larry and John had made plans to spend the weekend together, but Larry had called him to cancel as Robert Little was coming over. So they all knew about each other. John was annoyed by this and told Larry that he would then go out with a man named Ray, who he knew Larry did not like, and urged John to stay home. Robert arrived at Larry's apartment between 4 and 4:30 on Friday. They spent the evening together, and then Robert went to sleep in the bedroom while Larry slept on the couch. John and Larry had multiple phone calls over the weekend, with Larry telling him that Robert was leaving on Sunday and then John could come over. On Sunday evening, Larry and Robert went out for dinner, and then Larry called John at 9:48 p.m. to tell him that Robert was still there. John found this unusual because Robert usually left by this time on a Sunday. He had told Larry that he would just go out with Ray again, which caused Larry to become angry. Robert left Larry's apartment at around 10 p.m. on Sunday and then drove back to Indiana, arriving home at about 2:30 a.m. He went to bed and got up between 10 and 11 Monday morning. That day at about noon, he went to the county courthouse to pay his real estate taxes. Introduced into evidence was the receipt given to Robert. The receipt shows that the taxes were paid on August 20th, that same date. On cross-examination, the defense brought out that the real estate taxes were not due for another 3 months. So I think he was just trying to be like, yeah, I was here legally in a building paying my taxes. This is where I was.
Who was doing that? Little?
Robert Little.
Yeah.
At around 11 p.m. on Sunday evening, John and Larry were on the phone. When John was trying to meet up with Larry, Larry told him that Robert was still over.
Even though he wasn't?
Yes. So Robert's gone. Larry's still telling John, Robert's still over, you can't come over. So John's organised to go out with another man. John was waiting for Ray to pick him up on the corner of Montrose Avenue and Western Avenue between 11:45 p.m. and midnight. While standing on the corner, he saw Larry drive past. He called out his name, but Larry didn't stop. When John returned home at about 3:30 a.m., he called Larry again to get him to come over to his house. Larry said that Robert was still there, and then John said that he would just come over to Larry's apartment, and apparently Larry yelled, "No, don't do that," and agreed to meet John at his house, and he arrived around 4 a.m. The pair had sex on the kitchen floor, and John testified to a number of unusual things about Larry's behaviour. Larry appeared to be exhausted. He was not wearing any underwear or socks. His hair was wet, and for the first time in their 3-year relationship, he was non-responsive during sex. So I think he was just pumping him and getting out of there. Like, it wasn't just like a... Because he said he'd call him bitch and this and whip him and that. Yeah, he was just brute and boot.
Yeah.
At some point between Robert leaving at 10 p.m. and arriving at John's house at 4 a.m., Larry had murdered Daniel Bridges.
Oh, my God.
Once inside Larry's apartment, he picked him up, got him in the car. Once inside Larry's apartment, Daniel was bound to a chair with clothesline before he was beaten, tortured, and then stabbed to death. Larry then dismembered Daniel's body in his bathroom.
God almighty.
His body was cut into 8 pieces, each of which was completely drained of blood before being placed inside 6 separate plastic bags.
6, 7,
1,
8.
2, 3, 4,
Yeah.
5. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, you do
5,
neck,
6.
arm. So 1, 2, 3. Leg, 4, 5. Maybe break that into 6 and 7 and then across there. Yeah, that fits.
Sure. On the morning of Monday, August 20th.
Again, to lay on the floor and we'll try it.
We'll get the pen out.
Yeah, the marker and go, cut 1, cut 2.
On the morning of Monday, August 21st, a janitor named Joseph Bala discovered the multiple garbage bags placed inside the garbage dumpster close to Larry's apartment and within a unit not intended to use by tenants.
Just put them in the bin outside. Just Garbos are passed on Wednesday.
It seems like remember my place in Pascaval where it was just like all the buildings and then you all had shared bins. Yeah. Poor, imagine the janitor though. He's just going do his job now. He's
move these bags.
Found bags. So he put them in the bins, but not the unit of bins intended to use by tenants.
Right.
Believing the bags to have been illegally dumped, Joseph chose to remove the bags from the dumpster to inspect the contents.
Oh, that would have been a nice surprise.
Removing, and they would have had a smell.
Oh,
You'd be like,
they would have,
meat, fish,
he would
something.
have got a whoof when he opened them.
Believing the bags to be, oh no, I just read that. Removing the first bag from the disposal unit caused the bag to split open.
Oh, nah, what fell out?
And revealed the contents to be a severed human leg.
Oh, God.
Joseph then quickly called the police.
I bet he did. In a panic.
By the time the police arrived, 3 janitors were standing around the dumpster. Joseph told police that one of the other janitors had observed a tenant named Larry Eyler placing the bags into the dumpster the previous day.
Oh, Larry. Busted.
Recognizing the name, a police captain, Francis Nolan, informed the 4 officers present, quote, "Detain anyone occupying apartment 106. I don't care who it is." Within minutes, Larry was arrested within his apartment, and John was also there, so he got arrested too.
Oh.
But he was soon released without charge. On the 21st,
You can't tell me he didn't know what was going on.
I don't
You've
think...
released him twice from... He fucking...
No, John, the married boyfriend.
Oh.
I don't think John knew anything, but Robert Little...
Oh, he must have. The one that kept
paying for things.
Paying him
got
out
his
of jail.
new tyres.
Nah.
On the 21st and 22nd of August, a forensic examination of Larry's apartment was conducted. It revealed copious quantities of blood that had recently been cleaned from his bedroom, which had been recently repainted, because he's a painter, although extensive traces of blood splattered were located across the floors, walls, and ceiling.
Busted.
Numerous traces of blood later determined to belong to Daniel Bridges was also discovered upon a mattress, the seat of a chair, a leather belt, a sofa within the room, and beneath the floorboards of the doorway to the bathroom. Inside Larry's closet, investigators discovered Daniel's jeans and a Duke University t-shirt saturated with blood. They also discovered a hacksaw, extra blades for the hacksaw, and an owl. Not a hoo-hoo, but a AWL. It's like a pointy little screwdriver. Not quite an ice pick, but yeah.
You looked that one up in advance, did you?
I did. Pointy, small, little screwdriver thinger. Screwdriver thing.
Finger.
The forensic examination of the bags used to conceal Daniel's remains revealed several fingerprints determined to belong to Larry. These fingerprints were discovered on both the inside and the outside of the bags. On August 24th, investigators conducted a luminol test inside Larry's now empty apartment. God, that thing would have lit up like a fucking Christmas tree.
I reckon.
The test revealed extensive traces of blood in the bedroom, further markings across the floor indicating Daniel's body had been dragged from the bedroom into the bathtub, where the teenager's body had eventually been dismembered. And he was only 16.
Yeah.
On the 20... Yeah, it's fucked. So, yeah.
I said that. I said that's fucked up.
On the
Same thing as that's fucked. All right?
God. On the 22nd of August, Larry was formally charged with the murder of Daniel Bridges. He denied any knowledge of the crimes, insisting his fingerprints must have been inadvertently placed upon the bags containing Daniel's body, as he had moved them aside as he placed other garbage into the dumpster.
Of course he did.
How the fuck did your fingerprints get on the inside of the bag?
Yeah,
then?
exactly. And the blood in your apartment
Yeah.
and the clothes and
Someone
everything
else did it.
Fuck with.
In order to legally seek the death penalty, the prosecutors at Larry's upcoming trial, Mark Ragolsi and Rick Stock, opted to charge Larry with the felonies of aggravated kidnapping, unlawful restraint, and concealment of Daniel's body in addition to the charge of murder. Larry was brought to trial on the 1st of July 1986 and entered a formal plea of...
Oh, please don't tell me you said not guilty.
Not guilty.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
On July 4th, a janitor named Al Burdicki testified to having witnessed Larry make between 8 and 12 trips to his communal storage locker on August 20th, with Larry explaining to him that he was getting tools for a job.
Mm-hmm.
Several hours later, Al also witnessed Larry making 3 separate trips to the garbage receptacle. Al asked him what he was throwing out, and Larry replied, quote, "Just getting rid of some shit from my apartment." Just some shit. Just a 16-year-old boy's body. After a 9-day trial, the jury deliberated for 3 hours before returning their verdict.
I'm surprised it took them that long.
They found Larry guilty of aggravated kidnapping, unlawful restraint, and the murder of Daniel Bridges, in addition to the concealment of the teenager's body. Judge Urso formally sentenced Larry Eyler to death by legal injection. Emphasizing his decision had been difficult for him to reach due to his religious beliefs, Urso explained, quote,
"Because you're such a cunt, you're going down.
Pretty much.
Jibbity jab jab, jab jab.
The senseless and barbaric murder of a 16-year-old boy, a killing which was so brutal it defines description, shows me your complete disregard for human life. If ever there was a person or a situation for which the death penalty is appropriate, it is you. You are an evil person. You truly deserve to die for your acts. I thereby sentence you to death for the murder of Danny Bridges, committed during the course of his aggravated kidnapping." In May 1988, Larry filed a formal appeal against his conviction, saying that, yes, he had dismembered Daniel's body,
But it was an accident.
but it was Robert Little who had murdered him.
Oh, mate, bus, here you go. Let me
Yeah.
just give you a push.
This appeal was dismissed.
And laughed at?
In November 1990, a Vermilion County prosecutor named Larry Thomas, not Larry Eyler, obtained the physical evidence retrieved against Larry in relation to the murder of Ralph Calise and Stephen Agan, with the intention of presenting the evidence before an Indiana grand jury. Upon being informed of his impending indictment in the murders, Larry agreed to voluntarily confess to his culpability, although he insisted that the murder of Stephen had been committed with the assistance of Robert Little.
Not Little, poor old Little, although, as I say, he knew what was going on.
Yeah. He agreed to confess to his guilt and testify against his alleged accomplice on the condition he had been given a fixed term of imprisonment as opposed to a further death sentence.
A further death sentence. Once we kill you, we're going to kill you again.
Please don't kill
Okay.
me twice.
Yeah.
His offer was accepted, and Larry provided his attorney with a 17-page confession on December 4th.
Of all the things he'd done.
Yeah. On December 13th, Larry pleaded guilty to the murder of Stephen Agan before Judge Don Darnell, additionally testifying Robert Little had been a knowing and willing participant in this murder. Larry received a sentence of 60 years imprisonment on the 28th of December to be served concurrently with his existing sentence, which I don't understand. He got death.
What was, was death? Yeah.
Death was the first one, lethal injection.
So 60 years and then they'll give him the
I guess
needle?
it's a novelty.
He'll be about 300 years old.
Yeah. Robert Little was arrested on December 18th and formally charged with Stephen Agan's first-degree murder, facing a sentence of 60 years imprisonment if convicted. Robert Little was brought to trial on April 11th, 1991, and entered a formal plea of not guilty. Larry testified against his alleged accomplice at this trial. According to him, the two had regularly socialized within Indianapolis's gay community, occasionally bringing home young men to Little's home to engage in sex, with Robert frequently photographing the sexual acts. Larry said that on the date of the murder, Robert had suggested that the two do a scene, which he had understood to mean commit a murder for sexual pleasure, as Robert photographed the event with a Polaroid camera. Larry claimed that the two of them had persuaded Stephen into Robert's vehicle, initially with the promise of Stephen simply drinking with the two. Although he was straight, Stephen agreed to participate in a bondage and photography session for money. The two men had initially driven Stephen to the location close to Terre Haute Regional Airport, where the guardsman ordered the three off the airport grounds. Larry then drove towards an abandoned shed close to Indiana State Road 63. At this location, Stephen's hands were tied above a beam before he was gagged and bound. According to Larry, Robert then shouted, "Get out the knife," before he then proceeded to stab Stephen. He further testified that Robert had repeatedly masturbated while photographing him, as he'd bound and repeatedly stabbed Stephen, and that Robert had also stabbed the young man before stating to Larry, "Okay, kill the motherfucker." One of Robert's defense attorneys asserted that because he had appeared as a witness for the prosecution at Larry's earlier trial for the murder of Daniel Bridges, he was simply implicating Robert in a murder he had committed as a form of revenge. Larry was questioned in regard to 15 other alleged victims, of which on every occasion he exercised his Fifth Amendment rights. Further question as to why no photographs had been found of Stephen's restraint and murder in police searches of Robert Little's home in 1983 and 1990, Larry stated Robert had disposed of the photographs following the 1983 search of his home, adding the pictures had been inside a closet in Robert's bedroom which had not been searched.
Oh, bullshit. If they're going to search a house, they would have searched the fucking house.
I don't know if Robert was involved, but he definitely fucking knew something was going on.
He 100% knew. Had to have.
Yeah, he might not have actually stabbed someone.
Yeah, but he knew what was going on, what this other creep was up to.
Dr. John Pleece recounted the autopsy he had performed upon Stephen's body on December 28th, 1982, and stated, "This is the most extensive mutilated body I've ever seen without the body being cut into pieces." Dr. Pleece testified that many of the beating, stabbing, and slashing injuries had been inflicted after Stephen was already deceased, although numerous deep wounds to the neck and groin had been inflicted while the young man was still alive.
Ugh.
He further testified that he could not conclusively pinpoint the actual time of Stephen's death, but stated his belief that the young man had been killed prior to December 21st. Robert Little's defense attorney claimed that his client had not even been in Indiana in the week before Christmas on any year between 1958 and 1989. To support this, Robert's mother testified she had relocated from Indiana to Florida in 1958 and that since then her son had visited her a week before Christmas every year. However, this claim was discredited by the prosecutor, who had introduced into evidence ledger records proving Robert's vehicle had been brought to a garage for minor repair works on December 21st and a phone bill providing a call that was made from Robert's home on the same day. Which could have been fucking anyone. If he took a flight to Florida, his car, Larry's living there. Both prosecution and defense attorneys delivered their closing arguments before the jury on April 17th, with Robert's defense attorney stating, "Would you convict an honourable man on the word of Larry Eyler?" After deliberating for over 7 hours, the jury found Robert not guilty of all charges. On the 6th of March 1994, Larry died in the infirmary of the Pontiac Correctional Centre. His death was due to AIDS-related complications. He had been seriously ill for approximately 10 days prior to his death.
Oh, well.
2 days.
Not a tear was shed, I'm guessing.
Probably not. 2 days after his death, his attorney, Kathleen Zellner, called a press conference in which she revealed the names and or descriptions of 17 individuals whom her client confessed to have personally murdered.
Jesus.
Kathleen elaborated that her client had been formally diagnosed with AIDS in March 1991 and therefore knew when he testified at Robert Little's trial in the Stephen Agin murder that he was dying. I believe Larry was truthful. Larry had no incentive to lie to anyone except get revenge on fucking Robert Little.
Yeah.
In his posthumous confession, Larry stated that he had typically lured his victims.
His what?
Victims?
No.
Lured?
No.
Posthumous?
Posthumous. That doesn't sound right.
Posthumous.
Posthumous sounds like the word you're looking for.
He was dead and he made a confession.
That's, yeah.
Larry stated that he had typically lured his victims, which included both heterosexuals and homosexuals, with promises of drugs, alcohol, money, or transport, and that immediately prior to stabbing several of his victims, he had pressed the blade of his knife against their abdomen before informing his victims to make peace with God.
Jesus.
Furthermore, Larry claimed he had never engaged in sex with any of his victims, and he had frequently given his victims T-shirts to Robert Little to use in masturbatory fantasies.
Right.
That's Larry Eyler.
So the other one got off totally, Little.
Yep. Robert Little got off. Just from that research, doesn't sound like the other boyfriend knew what was going on.
No, well, he was just you wonder if he had AIDS.
Well, yeah, but he didn't apparently have sex with any of his
with
victims.
any of the ones that he was killing. So where'd he get the AIDS from?
Could have been anyone. Could have had a third person on the side.
Could have been anyone.
Could have been anyone. Well, couldn't have happened to a nicer person.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that was Mr. Larry Eyler.
Well, that was creepy, as usual.
Yeah, well, I think that was one of our first male serial killers. We did Eileen Wernos, who was a serial killer.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was our first male serial killer, like big serial killer.
Wow. Congratulations.
There you go.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Winner, serial killer dinner.
You know what a serial killer's main utensil is? A spoon.
It doesn't make any sense.
You really have to have that spoon to understand it. Anyway,
Mum got a spoon for Christmas that says serial killer on it.
No, it doesn't say fucking serial killer on it.
What does it say?
I'm now going to find the stupid picture I sent you.
Oh, you sent me, yeah. I'll put it on Instagram. Serial killer weapon of choice.
Yeah.
That's a spoon.
It's a spoon for cereal. Get it?
And cereal is spelled like cereal food, not serial killer.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
It is. It's quite clever.
Oh, my neck.
And did you like his t-shirt? Roy can. Even Nan laughed when she read it. She's like, he's here, he's every...
Nan.
Fucking where is what it says, Nan. Every fucking where.
I hope you enjoyed this lovely episode of Mainly Murder with Meg and Mum. And yeah, we'll catch you next week.
Yeah, probably
don't
back.
Forget
same bat time, same bat channel.
Don't forget what?
Oh, please tell me you know that expression.
Did you just say vaginal?
I said same bat time, same bat channel.
Is it Batman?
Yes.
Okay. I really thought you said vaginal.
Oh, same veg time, same veg channel. Yep, that's us.
And
the veg twins. God almighty.
How I have a neck.
Good. So you should fucking veg.
Oh, don't forget to live, laugh, lobotomy. Live, laugh, toast and bath. Oh, my neck.
Good. I hope you're in a lot of pain, you fucking idiot. Turn this shit off.
All right. Goodbye.
Bye.